Thank you. That's James Alfendel, founder of Bright Network. Now, it is April the 5th today, not April the 1st, and I promise you that this is not a joke story that I'm about to do, because veggie burgers are for the chop, according to a Brussels committee. They're to be replaced by the less palatable sounding veggie discs. And it won't be just bean or mushroom burgers condemned to the food bin of history. Vegan sausages, tofu steaks and soya escallops could all be approaching their ultimate best before date after a vote in the European Parliament on revisions to a food labelling regulation. Daniel Pryor is head of programmes at the Adam Smith Institute and can tell us more. This has to be a joke, Daniel.
I'm afraid it's not. I must admit there aren't too many things that unite a free market think tank, Greenpeace and the Green Party, but opposing this ridiculous law is definitely one of them. Everyone knows that a veggie burger is a plant-based burger. There's absolutely no grounds for saying this is to better inform consumers. There's no push from outraged shoppers who think a vegan sausage somehow contains pork. Basically, it's the meat industry, I think, lobbying to protect itself. It's an anti-competitive measure.
Oh, so you can only have a burger if it contains meat. Is that what they're saying?
Basically, yes. I think younger people, they're increasingly going vegetarian or vegan, and the meat industry are starting to get worried about it. But presumably they think that just slapping a tax or a tariff on veggie burgers is too obvious, so they've decided to go for this one instead. And the EU bureaucrats are only too happy to play along.
But no one would really want to eat a veggie disc. I can't think of any other food that is called a disc. A disc is something metallic or plastic, isn't it? And you just wouldn't want to eat one.
Right, this is one of the problems. It just makes life harder for people who want meat-free alternatives to things like burgers. It makes it more difficult and confusing to be vegetarian when you go to the supermarket. And the other issue, and I think this hasn't really been discussed too much in the coverage, I think it's part of a wider effort to stop lab-grown meat or cruelty-free meat, as it's sometimes called. There's a big lobbying effort in Europe and the US as well to protect the meat industry from any sort of alternatives to what they're offering at the moment. So
is this definitely going to happen, or are there other stages to go through?
Well, hopefully we won't have to adopt this. It still does have to go through the EU Parliament, and if we ever do end up leaving the EU, then we might not have to, although it could well be the case that we do anyway, given the kind of fairly nanny state mentality that we have in the UK at the moment. And one of the things I found really ironic about this is the EU, they're following the lead of the United States here. They like to say that they hate the US for things like chlorinated chicken, but they're following the US and cracking down on veggie burgers. Last year, Missouri made it a crime punishable by a year in prison for calling a veggie burger. And it was only last week Arkansas started fining companies $1,000 every time they sold something as cauliflower rice. And that was on the basis that someone going out shopping might not realise that cauliflower rice is in fact made from cauliflowers.
Well, one of my listeners, Simon Byers, just tweeted, well, I've never heard of a soya escalope, even less likely to eat one. If they force Greggs to rename that vegan sausage roll, make sure they let Piers Morgan know. Well, I'll leave a message when I'm on Good Morning Britain tomorrow morning. I've never heard of anything so ridiculous. Daniel, thank you. That's Daniel Pryor, head of programmes at the Adam Smith Institute. Well, if you need